just wanted to welcome everybody to the LCLAA IATSE Latinx Caucus panel. Today we're celebrating Latinx Heritage Month and the phenomenal work of all our panelists. It's important that we are in community during this tough time, and we're standing in solidarity with our union kin and SAG-AFTRA and the WGA. My name is Jen Martin. I'm a proud member of IATSE Local 705 Motion Picture Costumers Union. I'm also the founder and the board chair of the IATSE Latinx Caucus, also known as the ILC. A little bit about us: we are a rank and file run space for Latinx film, television, and entertainment professionals. We're here to build community, equity, and representation. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, aka IATSE, is a union that represents workers in live theater, motion picture, television, and production, trade shows, concerts, and exhibitions, with over 300 local unions and over 150,000 members in US and Canada. We use the term Latinx inclusively and invite all IATSE members and allies to join us in acknowledging and celebrating the contributions of Latinx individuals. We respect our social environment and value mutual respect, dignity, and professionalism for ourselves and our colleagues. We kindly ask that everyone mute their mics and please save your questions for our Q&A at the end. Also, we'd like to thank our collaborators, the Labor Council for Latin American Advancement, LCLAA. I was fortunate to be a part of their Trabajadora Fellowship, and it was about 6 months long, and we had all kinds of guest speakers and just really phenomenal women who work in labor, sharing their leadership journey. And one of our projects is to do a community project at the end. And so we put this together as the LCLAA Fellowship Project. And so we have another LCLAA Fellow on the panel, and that is Adriana, and she's gonna share a little bit about LCLAA.
Thanks, thank you so much, Jen. I'm Adriana Dela Cruz. Hi there. I have been a LCLAA member for about 10 years now, and I'm really pleased to have been part of the Trabajadora program. LCLAA is Labor Council for Latin American Advancement, and for those that aren't familiar with it, the URL is LCLAA.org, and we'll put some information in the chat for you to look at later. It was founded in 1973. And this Labor Council was an advocacy group for the new movement in the 70s for diversity. LCLAA was born out of the need to educate, organize, and mobilize Latinos and Latinas in the movement. And so far that I've seen, it's expanded its influence to organize in an effort to impact workers' rights. I think it represents now at least 2 million Latinos nationwide, and I think it's imperative that we all participate in the census that IATSE is sending out for us to be able to help them get the demographic numbers that are needed, so that when they advocate for us at the state levels or nationwide for better working conditions, tax incentive programs, and being able to give politicians the numbers that there are representative minorities within IATSE and the motion picture industry. I think it's really imperative that we are our own advocates and participate in that. The fellowship program has a cohort every year, and Carla Pineda can be reached as the LCLAA's deputy director for that program. Her email is kpineda@lclaa.org, and we'll also put that in the chat for you. There's information on their website, and they predominantly focus on Latina Equal Pay Day as an annual event, and of course giving folks like myself and others the confidence and the education in order to be better leaders within their respective unions, and to help others join LCLAA, and also within their own locals to develop DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion committees if you don't have one. And IATSE has been really great about being an advocate for all persons of color, individuals, gender equity as well. So I'm really pleased to be here with you today, with these wonderful, awesome sisters and you as kin. Thank you for giving those few minutes of a commercial time.
Oh, fantastic. It's really great to hear your experience in the fellowship too. Again, my name's Jen, and I'm going to be co-moderating along with Sabrina. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Sabrina.
I'm Sabrina Castro. I'm in Local 706. I'm a specialty makeup artist. I grew up in LA, and my family's from Mexico. Yeah, I'm excited to see what you all have to say for yourself.
Okay, and if we could just take turns introducing ourselves and our union, and yeah, just where you grew up, where's your family from. So we'll start Adriana, and then Michelle, and then Alma, and then Flora.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief because I took up a lot of time a little while ago, but I'm Adriana de la Cruz. Good afternoon. I'm with IATSE Local 80. I'm the vice president. Pleased to be in leadership. I was formerly a steward. I've been a treasurer, no, a trustee, forgive me, a steward, trustee. I'm a delegate. I was on the executive board, and now I'm a vice president. So I'm really proud to have been voted into that office by my brothers, my union brothers, and being supported continually by my union sisters and kin. I think it's really important. I mentioned a little bit before that we participate. So I encourage you to attend your general membership meetings. It presents a lot of opportunities and possibly a future leadership role for you. If this is your first time, your first endeavor into seeing what little change you want to do, which ends up being a big change later.
I'm Michelle Clementine Garcia, but I just go by Michelle Clementine. I'm in Local 600 as a camera operator. I've been in since about 2010 or so. I grew up in the Bronx. My mom is Dominican, my dad is Ecuadorian. They moved here when they were children. And so, yeah, I've been living in LA now for 2 years, and I really like the West Side, so.
Hi, all. My name is Alma Lucero Acosta. I am in Logo 705, Motion Picture Costumers. I am a costume technician. I grew up in Houston, Texas, to a dad from Mexico City and a mom from Pereira, Colombia. And I've been living in LA for 5 years now. Loving it. Before that, I was in Chicago for 6 years, and it's where I went to school to study what I do now.
Hey everyone, I am Flora Ortega. I am a production designer in the Art Directors Guild Local 800. I was born and raised in Port Isabel, a small town located on the Gulf Coast of South Texas. And my father was a shrimper from this area, and my mother's from Veracruz, Mexico. We didn't have much growing up, but we always had tons of shrimp, and going to the movie theater was what we did for fun together as a family, and probably where my love for film began.
What are your responsibilities and your roles in your position?
Well, as vice president, should I need to step in, I suppose I would be interim president. I don't think that's ever happened in many years since I've been in Local 80. I should mention that I'm a set medic by trade. I neglected in mentioning that before. A little bit more about what we do can be found on our website, IATSE, local80.org. I think it's always a challenge to know what's going to happen from one month to the next. It's essential that we're flexible, that we keep an open mind, that we're readily available. Leadership roles in general, irrespective of if it's at the local or not, you have to follow through with being committed and having a good positive outtake as to what calls come in or what emails you respond to. I do a lot of paperwork, I think, lately, but attending the meetings, being at the hall once a month, we have general membership meetings. I feel that it's a good way of social networking now that we're back with some in-person meetings. I enjoy the Zoom portion of it and the hybridization of it because it allows for better work-life balance as well.
So I'm a camera operator, and to be honest, I feel like I have the best job on set. It's just all the fun things of being able to figure out what the frame is, working with the DP, working with the director, and making sure that as a camera operator, you're kind of setting the tone on set. You know, I'm working very closely with the AD to basically like make sure everything is running smoothly. And you know, it's not just taking the camera and pointing it somewhere, but it's really feeling what the scene is calling for and contributing my ideas to the creative flow of things, and making sure that, you know, that I'm just backing up everything the DP is asking for. If there's anything that they may have a blind spot to, like, I'm communicating those things. I'm making sure that the flow of the camera department is working well, but also in conjunction with like grips and electric department, and making sure that things are kind of running smoothly on all ends so that when we're ready to go, we're ready to go. And we can have a smooth take. And so, yeah, so that's my duties as like, as a camera operator. But I also, with 600, I'm actually the first chairwoman for the Western Region Women's Committee. And so we just kind of like had our first event over the summer. And now that the year is drawing to a close, just like doing things to kind of get women in camera, but also just in the union period, everybody recognizing that women can be in leadership roles in this very kind of old boys club kind of feel of our union, you know?
I am classified as a women's custom made journey person, class 4, specifically as a stitcher / draper. But I sometimes float between that classification and table person, depending on the pattern maker that hires me. So what that basically means is that I am in a workroom for 10 to 12 hours a day. I don't really get to go on set, so I don't get to meet the awesome people that are here right now. So my world is very limited to the rest of the costume technicians that are hired on the project. And so the way the workflow goes is that there's a pattern maker or a manufacturing person, and they basically create all the patterns. They are the head of our department, essentially. And they create the patterns, custom fit them, they attend fittings, they have meetings with the designers, and then they have a table person or another assistant, which sometimes could be me, cut out those patterns. So then we have basically these giant pieces of paper that are created in all these awesome geometric shapes. Sometimes superheroes have really wild shapes. You have like a ton of triangles that you have to fit together. That gets cut, and then basically we have like these piles of fabric pieces, and they get handed over to me. So I'm mostly sitting at a machine, and my job is to put the puzzle together. You know, I get to talk with the pattern maker, and I'm just like, okay, what kind of finishes are you looking at? You know, and then I put the pattern together, depending on what stage we are in the creation of this super suit, for example. Determines how finished it is, whether we finish it really nicely on the inside. Usually in the beginning of the process, we don't finish things fully because it's purely going into a fitting with talent just to see how the style lines hit their body, see if we need to take in anything, let it out. And then we sometimes go through like 2, maybe sometimes 3 if we have time, versions of this costume until we get to the final product where we actually put a lining in, you know, we hide all of our seams. So every day I'm always like, I have to be on it at work, you know, I can't have an off day because my brain is on fire all the time. Just like, basically like I have to get into this puzzle, right? And then I have to get out of the puzzle because I describe costumes as a sculpture. And you're not allowed to show any flaws in it, right? Everything has to be hidden. Look at the clothes that you wear, right? You don't see the inside of it if it was finished properly. So I always have to be on top of it and make sure everything looks perfect. Make sure nothing is poking talent. That's very important for their comfort. And then once the custom things are out of the way, we do alterations, all the little things for the background. So it's 10 to 12 hours of grueling work with my brain and sitting down all the time. But I love it. I love it so much. It's what I've done my whole life. I haven't had any other job in my life. I've been doing this since I was 12, and I hope I keep doing it till my very last day.
So I'm a production designer. Production designers visualize the look and feel of a project in order to build the world that the show takes place in. As the head of the art department, the production designer is constantly communicating with producers, directors, cinematographers, as well as the second unit, so stunts, special effects, and numerous other departments. So designers are involved in the selections of visual effects and lighting, props, set dressing. They contribute to the overall look and totality of a film or show. Yeah, I love it. I feel like there's really no other job that I feel like I could do, rain or shine, good or bad, no matter what. I love this job. I feel really blessed and lucky to be a part of the industry.
How did you begin working in the industry? And are there any films that inspired you to work in film?
I'd say 25 years ago, I was volunteering for the AIDS Walk LA. I did a lot of the Revlon walks, diabetic walk, a lot of those 5Ks, 10Ks. And I met a set medic at one of the events. He was a nice fellow. He's not with us anymore, Fred Miller. Very joyful, very energetic, and really convincing. And he introduced me to some other set medics, and I thought they were really good. Eventually, someone reached out to me and said, I remember meeting you, and I was wondering if you could work on a non-union project for me just for the day. I have another scheduling conflict, personal thing I need to take care of. I didn't do it full time right away. I was working already as an EMT. Eventually, I got my 30th day, and I got an invitation from my IATSE Local 767. We were absorbed into Local 80 some years ago. But I'd say that was probably my introduction. And it's very random. It's a miracle, some would say. As Jen had mentioned, it's a challenge to get your union days, to be able to get that coveted invitation. But once you have it, it's life-changing. It can open up new avenues for your family, for your career. There's a possibility of changing your mind if you want within respective local. If you have multiple classifications, you can do something else. But I think nothing beats that ability to be able to bargain, negotiate, fight for your rights, and be able to have such a nice union family behind you, and leadership to help you whenever there's a challenge at work.
I think the first thing was that when I was a kid, I was obsessed with music videos. And I think AHA's take on me, like, it blew my mind, because it was just like, is it real? Is it a comic book? Like, how do they do that? And I was obsessed with how do they do that for a very long time, how all of that works. And my dad was like, he had a photography hobby. When I went to high school, we had a dark room. So I had a dark room photography class. And they were always just like, you have a really good eye. You should really look into a career in photography. And I'm just like, whatever, not doing that. And I thought I was going to get into politics. I went to Brooklyn College. I was thinking I was going to be in politics. And then I wanted to be a curator for like a museum or something. But then like one day I had an internship at Tribeca Film Festival, and it was like in its third or fourth year or something at that time. And I was reading scripts all day for this like screenwriting competition. And I had to basically filter out what was in format, what wasn't in format, and then read what was good scripts and stuff like that. So I was just having a ball doing this. I declared my major. I had no idea where exactly I wanted to be because I was just like, being a director is not what I want to do. And then I was a PA on a film set for, what is it, Tony Scott's Taking of Pelham 123. And I saw an Ingenue 12:1, and it's this huge camera that's like 3.5 feet long, probably weighs like 40 pounds or something. It was the most massive lens I've ever seen. And I was just like, I want to do that, you know? And I harassed the camera guys. I was a terrible PA because I was always leaving my lockup to bother the camera guys to hire me. They all said no until one day, this guy, Bob Ragazine in New York, was like, you got to do what all of us do and work at a rental house and learn the gear because I don't have time to train you. And so I was like, I had never heard that before. And I ended up working at Aries CSC when they moved to Jersey. And from there, like, you either get your days on set or you work as a prep tech. At least it used to be that way. I don't know if it's still that way now. And from there, I qualified to take the union test and got in as a loader and worked my way up.
As I said earlier, I have been sewing since I was 12 years old. My mom would take me to the thrift stores on Wednesdays specifically because it was half off, which meant I could get clothes for 50 cents. And so that's when I started cutting up my stuff. I was really into J-rock, Japanese rock. I was a total anime nerd back in the day. And so I would just use like glue and this thing called heat and bond where you use an iron and you like glue pieces together. And I started figuring out shapes and how clothes come together. And so when it came time to figure out where I wanted to go to school, I said, I definitely need to learn costumes. I was actually really involved in my high school theater. I was a president, you know, I did all of the events, all of the sewing competitions, and I was like, I need to keep pursuing this. And so I went to a theater conservatory in Chicago, the theater school at DePaul University, and only 4 people in each major get accepted, and I was one of 3 that got in. The only Latina in a sea of white people. It's theater, you know, what do you expect? And so I was there. It was a really amazing program. I learned so much. It's the kind of program where you wouldn't need to get a master's. Usually some people go into the master's of costume technology, but it was so intensive. Where they even taught you special effects makeup. So like I am trained in prosthetic making and all these things and wig making. And then from there, you kind of choose like, which one do you want to go into? And the internships I kept getting, the opportunities that kept presenting themselves to me were in film during that. So I collaborated a lot with other student directors and producers, and I would just offer my services for free. I would bring in the wardrobe and, you know, get everybody on set, do the makeup too on it, airbrush people. And then I got an opportunity to do an internship with a friend of mine who got me on as her assistant costume designer. And we were in the woods of Quebec, Canada for 6 weeks. And we did a film set in 1920s with, I'm sure, a budget of $2,000. And that was really amazing to kind of like start, you know, to figure out like, how does set work, you know? After that, I stayed in Chicago and I started working as a PA for the Dick Wolf NBC Empire that's over there. And it's the Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, Chicago Justice shows. And all those 4 shows are led by one costume designer. And she has this giant team of like 30 people in this warehouse. So I started as a PA there, went up to coordinator, which coordinator in Chicago is not a union job. I did that for 2 years until a friend of mine from school that was also working at the same place said, I am leaving to LA. I think there's better opportunities out there. Do you want to come? And I said, when are you moving there? She said, in 2 months. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So I left everything in Chicago and shipped all my stuff out there. At the same time, I had gotten a job to work on cruise ships. So I shipped off my stuff to LA, and then I went to Hong Kong to do tailoring on cruise ships for a while. So then I kind of basically went from PAing all over LA, working in bridal, working in theater, and doing cruise ships and trying to figure out how do I get my way into the union. My goal was really just, I want to be better than anybody else. I don't really want to get into the union yet until I have all of the skills that I need to be better than anybody else, than everybody else. And so I finally got my start with that same friend that brought me to LA. She knew somebody at Bill Hargate Costumes, which is like an OG costume shop in the union. And I went over there and I helped them move. It was when the old shop owner retired. And so they were moving into another location. So I was hired to PA with them and basically just pack boxes. And of course, during lunch, I had to go over there and be like, I stitch. This is what I want to do. Like, do you want my resume? You know, just consider me for next time. And Rory Cunningham, the owner there, said, absolutely. I'll let you know whenever we get more work. The rest is really history. He hired me for that. And then from there, that was in 2018. So from there, I've just been leveling up each time. And it's truly been the greatest thing ever. Growing up as a goth kid, Colleen Atwood was like my hero, the designer that I loved, you know. I love Tim Burton, and her pattern maker is Dale Wibbin, and I've had the chance to work under him for 3 movies, which I just feel like as a kid, all of my dreams have come true. And I'm just like, wow, what's next?
I really like that all these reputable companies have hired, you know, you, and like, you know, Bill Hargate is like, I don't know, they get like massive contracts, like they're like the best of the best, you know. And then Ari, you know, like Rental House, like to learn from all these like skilled technicians, and just, I don't know, like that's really just important that we do have those mentors and those opportunities. And I'm so it's so cool to hear that both of you had that.
It was a great experience, you know. Working at Aerie, I think I kind of came in when the rental houses have a lot of power in what the makeup of the camera union looks like. It definitely, like, they used to hire, just, it was always by who they knew, and all that stuff, people getting their nephews or somebody in there. And I think they actually had like some stuff where a woman was just like, no, you're gonna hire me, and if this is a problem, we're gonna take you to court type stuff. So it was just like, okay, maybe we'll hire more women. And I didn't even realize that I was part of like that intentional change that they were making. And so it's unfortunate, like, that we have to sometimes come to a head with that. But it was, I came in with a really great group that we all learned together. We supported each other and helped each other study for the union test, and making sure that we knew not just what things were, but how they worked and why they worked that way. So it was great. Like, that was like my grad school that I was paid to attend.
So I got my start by right after graduating from the radio, television, film master's program at the University of Texas in Austin. Right after I graduated, I moved to LA and I started designing thesis films at USC and AFI, doing all of their VFX workshops and cinematography workshops. And I started doing as many short films as I could. And at the same time, I also worked as an art PA for other production designers in order to gain as much experience as I could as possible. And then I began to design commercials and music videos and television series before I had the opportunity to move on and art direct 2 features And recently, I just production designed my first film as a member of the ADG, which was God's Country. So it was so many years in the making to be able to get to that point. Definitely. I feel like I'm still at the start. I'm still trying to get my start.
I don't know if it's hard for everyone, but it's hard for us to get in. And we really have to just show we really want it, and like really just show how good we are, and just like polish our craft, you know, to compete really for this kind of like open market type jobs.
That all being said, what's your favorite project that you've worked on, ladies?
I'd say one of the, I think one of the actors that I worked with that stood out in my mind, he was new and up and coming. He was already established in England, but I think he had made a move, literally moved his family to Los Angeles to be able to star in this TV show. Little gem called Life, L-I-F-E. It's a TV show, and the actor is Damian Lewis. You all know him from Billions now. And he was also in a very prominent Claire Danes TV show project, and he's in so many things. I think one of the reasons why I liked working on that TV show was the producers were very supportive, and it was during the last WGA strike, 2007 to the 8. And we became a good close-knit family after union work family, we call it, right? Union work family, after 2 seasons. And we were fortunate enough to get approval of some scripts. The producers were also the creators, writers. So we were able to work through that and with some agreement, but it reminds me of what we've gone through now with this latest solidarity action that we've been a part of again with IATSE, with our WGA brothers and sisters and kin, and of course SAG-AFTRA. So I think it's just a reminder of that time, and I look forward to some resolution. I know we're getting off topic, but I think that's probably one of my favorite TV shows to have worked on.
When I was a camera assistant, I pulled focus on If Beale Street Could Talk. And this was Barry Jenkins' first project after he won the Oscar for Moonlight. And it was a very, it was a really tough and emotional project for the actors and respecting their spaces. But it was also, for me, the catalyst that challenged me to take my career to the next level. Because I think that at the time I was sort of just accepting, like, I loved cameras. I always wanted to be behind the cameras. But then it was just like, Local 600, most of the members are camera assistants, and there's like in New York, I think the attitude is the most militant in terms of, the expectation is that, you're a loader for 5 years, you're a second AC for 10 years, you're a first AC for 10 years, and you have to do all of that before you can even think about being, an operator or DP, right? So it's just like you would kind of get the culture here is like, if you thought about doing a different position than the position you're in, you would get reamed for that, And there was a scene we were doing in that movie that, they kind of gave us the room to sort of, if the mood striked us, like if we had a thought that could add to the picture, to go for it, and they would let us know, hey, Michelle, you want to do something, go for it. I'm like, okay, like show me something I haven't seen. And there was a scene there that was about like the daughter breaking the news that she's pregnant. And in the background was like Regina King, and she didn't have any lines. It was about the daughter sharing her news. But Regina was just acting her ass off, and she was emoting in a way that I was just like, what is she doing? She was so out of focus. I wasn't supposed to do it to her. But when they told me, hey, Michelle, go for it, I threw the focus to Regina, and they did the scene, and Barry called cut. And usually he would go to set and he would give notes to the actors and tell them like, hey, this is what I want or whatever, just whisper in their ear something. He walked to the set, walked past all the actors and came to me where I was like stuck in a corner behind a staircase with my monitor. And he was just like, thank you for helping me see this scene through the eyes of a woman. And he was like, you're a filmmaker. You're not just a camera assistant or focus puller, you're a filmmaker. And that meant everything to me, you know, at the time. I was really going through a lot. I was like going through divorce. It was all this stuff happening. And when he said that, it just reminded me of why I fell in love with film, why I went like study film and did all this stuff. It just validated everything and sort of gave me like the bravery, I think, to like, you know what, I am a filmmaker and let me really like nurture this thing in me. And yeah, so for that reason, it's like that was my favorite film to work on.
Michelle, that is so awesome. I have to quickly ask you, like, how did you feel when the camera boys were like, hey, take over?
they I just knew that I wanted to do that, you know, and they were just like, go for it. What do you want to do? That was the only opportunity that I had out of all the chances, you know, like they would all sort of team up with each other. And it was really like between the DP and the camera op and Barry, who they were all like, oh, let's try this and let's try that. So it was always a conversation that was mostly for them. But then this was the one time that they were just like, what do you have? Like, show me something. And that was the moment. And it was, I think everybody was really happy about that. And I mean, she ended up winning an Oscar for that film. So I think they used that tape.
For everyone who hasn't been on set, our departments are very, I don't want to say militarized, but yes, militarized. And then also hierarchy is key, you know? And though we can be in different positions on different projects, when we're in a position in our department, we really don't get too many opportunities to step out of that position or to do things that aren't related to our classification. So like for him to see your potential and you know, give you that gift to collaborate.
It changed everything. It changed everything. Yeah. It's what led me to eventually like move to LA. So it really, really impacted me in a very deep way that I don't even think he's aware of, you know? So it was a great moment for sure.
And that's the beauty of inclusion. And I hope that's what people watching like see, like that is what happens when you just give a person of color a chance to just show us what you got, you know? It's not what you usually do, but just like, this is it. And Michelle, you gave it your all, you know? And you were a part of like winning that award after the fact, you know, for her, you know, you gave Regina King like the chance to show what she's got, you know. You were such an integral part of that. And I feel like with my own answer to this, with inclusion, you know, I was thinking about this question a lot. And I have to say that my favorite project, I did it about a year ago now, Ahsoka, which is the newest Lucasfilm series that was designed by Shauna Tripkick. She passed away unexpectedly earlier in the week, which has really hit the whole community so hard. And the reason why it was such a good project for me was because I was called on by a buddy of mine who I had helped get into the union, you know, so we both just really help each other all the time. She's also a Mexican woman, raised in LA. And she was like, Alma, I really need some help. Can you please come? And so I show up. It's in Manhattan Beach. The commute is so long. So I'm already like, oh, I don't know how long I want to do this gig for. It is a minimum of 12 hours, which for my world is not normal, just because the work is so hard on our bodies, because we have to constantly have our necks in like weird positions just to, you know, accomplish the job, that we're usually capped at 10 hours. But since this was a minimum of 12, just because the whole world of Star Wars, everything is custom built, nothing is purchased. And I show up to the workroom and there's 3 Mexican ladies working there too. And I'm just like, what? This is wild. I'm usually the only one. So basically for the whole time that we were there, all the shop talk was in Spanish, you know? I got to talk about the work like in Spanish, talk about how to sew these things in Spanish. And there were two of us that were younger and then two like ladies that were way more experienced. So I also got to pick their brain on like, this is how I would do this zipper. How would you do the zipper? You know, teach me your ways. How do you get faster? Because that's ultimately the goal. They want us to be as fast as possible, which is also not that good. And it was just so nice to come into work and be told like, traje café de olla. I brought café de olla. It's in the kitchen. You know, go have it. I brought some panecitos. You know, go have that. And on top of that, Shauna, the designer, I didn't get to see her around. She was very busy between the workroom and set, and the workroom was composed of like, I would say 30, 40 custom made people. And she wasn't the type of designer that would ignore you. She actually went around and talked to everyone on the team, made sure they were good. She got some reporters to come in and interview us and take pictures of us and document the fact that we were on her team. We took this giant group photo too. I hope that I get to see whatever that was later on and just remember her for like being just there for everybody. Another great part is that I was in the kitchen getting a snack and Shauna was there. And I really did not have many conversations with her. I kind of just like kept my head down, went to work, did my thing. You know, she had a bunch of other things to worry about. But she comes up to me and she's like, you know, we got renewed for another season. I would love to have you come back. No costume designer has ever like gone up to me. Technically I was a day player for that. And personally asked me to come back, and she did that with everybody else. You know, she made sure to make everyone feel welcome, to make sure that like everybody has a place here. And that's like all of the stories that you hear from the crew. You know, we're all now reminiscing on her career, on her life, how she did that with everybody. She inspired everyone. And I'm never gonna forget her for that. And I'm really happy that I got to experience that project with her. And we're really gonna miss her. And who knows what the Star Wars world will be like. It's not gonna be the same for sure.
I think my favorite project to work on is the film that I recently production designed, God's Country. It's a neo-Western thriller. I've always loved Westerns, and I had the chance to go to Montana to shoot this film, and the film premiered at Sundance last year. It was just a really exciting experience to take the film from being, you know, in its beginning stages as an indie through COVID, surviving like a shutdown, and finally years later being able to see it in theaters. So that was a really, really fun and exciting experience. But I think the reason that I will always like treasure this experience was because we shot this film in Montana, and it was just such a different and wild experience than making the film in LA. I felt like I really had the opportunity to make the film with the local community. There were so many things that were just out of our element that we just had to roll with, like the weather and blizzards, but also things like just not being able to go to any prop houses or anything like that to make this film, which made the experience actually even more fun, even though it was challenging because we got to work with so many local artisans. For example, all of the set dressing for the main character sets were all sourced locally from local furniture shops, and the main props in the film, like some taxidermy elements, were actually fabricated by taxidermists from Montana. It was a really incredible experience to be able to make a film with a community like that and out in the middle of nowhere. I think it's my proudest accomplishment yet, and I'm just grateful to be telling these kinds of stories.
What advice would you guys give, like, people coming into this industry? Because it's a pain in the neck to get in and get going, and there's no encouragement.
I think one of the things that pops in my mind is discussions like this is a welcoming experience. And if you're here as a panelist, please tell your friends and coworkers and anyone that happens to be put in your path, anybody who asks or inquires, don't feel that. I think there's this misconception that because it was so coveted and experienced and something we value, that we don't want to share. I'll speak for myself that every year had the grace to be a member, because that's what it takes. It takes someone to open up their hearts and minds and say, you know what, there's room for more. There's room for others. And so that individual who led me towards that path, Fred, bless his soul, said that there's always room for more. And as experienced workers, I think it's almost an obligation for us to be able to say it was a life-changing experience, and we have to sow the seeds for others to be able to carry on the mantle of being a union member, so that when we retire, we can be their mentors and they would be the union members to keep IATSE going for another 100 years, right? Because that's what it takes, just that little moment to say that I don't know if this day is going to matter or if it's going to be your 30th day to be able to get what you need or whatever the prerequisites are for membership. But I think it's a good start. So if people took a chance on us, it's almost the right thing to do.
I think what worked for me was, and I think it could apply to anybody seeking whatever it is that they want to do, is to know your value and to be yourself. There was a long time where I think I used my college years as a time to figure out the basics. And, I was willing to work for free and just learn and intern or whatever it was. But after I graduated, you have to pay me, even if it was a low fee or a low cost thing and it's a super budgeted thing. I think that you have to know that your time is worth something, So even if somebody, said, oh, I want you to work on this film, but we can't pay you, it's just well, you got to pay me something, even if it's my commute. And then I think there was this space that I was in, especially when I started, it was in the 2000s. And I think there was this pressure for women in the camera department specifically and I think maybe women who are interested in being grips or electric may understand that too, that it's just you're in such a boys arena that we felt the pressure to just assimilate and to be one of the guys. And it would, you couldn't be girly, basically, I'm a Dominican woman. I love all the things that come with being that, and I found myself in this thing trying to fit into a box that wasn't made for me. I'm not a man. I'm not a white man. And I think there was a day that, and the guys were so mean that I would work with. And it was just they didn't care what their impression was, good or bad. They would always get the jobs. They always got the work. So why was I sitting here worried about how I came across? And one day, I think I was actually on a job where my camera operator, I was a second AC. And this was the same year that that this camera assistant, she died on the job in Atlanta, Sarah Jones. And it was a disaster of a shoot. All these people got injured. And that same year, I was on a job where we were by train tracks also, and they didn't give us a safety meeting. And it was a big time TV show. And they strapped my camera operator to the back of a van that also had an arm on it. And they were doing this high-speed chase that we had no idea was happening. And basically the arm sheared off of this truck because of the high speed. It wasn't made for this kind of shooting. it landed literally, like when they came to a stop, it was literally 2 inches from his head. They could have killed my camera operator. And after that, I just stopped caring what anybody thought of me. I ran to that guy. I ended up like cussing somebody out. Like I just stopped caring. Funny enough, when I started painting my nails and doing all that and just being me, it actually, like, I stood out more because of that. You know, people paid more attention. They appreciated me more. They were just acting like, oh, we like you now, which once I stopped caring what they thought about me, all of a sudden they all liked me. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But it definitely was something that taught me the lesson, and just that we're in this field where all these different personalities are coming from all these different places. And part of the magic is that everybody is coming with their background and coming together to make this thing that we're all a part of. And what makes you unique is what's adding to that magic of the filmmaking process. So yeah, so I would absolutely say, like, know who you are, value who you are, and don't be afraid to be who you are. Because ultimately, and that's in anything in life, I think it'll really serve you very well going forward.
Yeah, I think that's really good, Michelle. Definitely like stay true to yourself and don't try to be like anybody else, because there's only one of you and that's all you've got to sell to people. So, you know, do it. I think the advice I would give would be ponte las pilas. Put your batteries on, you know, hustle, hustle, hustle. Go for every single opportunity. At least that's been my motto. And I feel like it's definitely worked for me. I never give up an opportunity, but definitely be careful with mean people. Don't stay in toxic places for too long, because the industry is full of it. You will encounter it, and try not to become them. You know, and the same thing that Michelle said, be you. You know, you are a nice person. So stick with that, with what works, and work with really nice people, because you are also learning under them. And like that is a leadership that will eventually come out of you. And then the other piece of advice is be nice. I feel like me just being nice, being myself has really gotten me places, because that's actually, at least in the workrooms I've been, that's been the number one thing when we have too much work and we're looking for more people. The pattern maker always says, do you have a recommendation for somebody that's good and nice? Like it's always those two things, good and nice. Just with that, I think everybody will really get places.
I would say, you know, it's important to build networks early on and seek out mentors, nurture creative relationships with friends and colleagues you respect, and just to continue to sharpen and build upon your skills whenever possible. For anyone interested in production design, specifically our art department careers, check out the production design initiative at the Art Directors Guild. It's an art PA workplace placement program where you can get experience by working with designers on set or any crew position within the Art Directors Guild umbrella. And I can put that initiative information in the chat. But yeah, just work on as many films as you can, make as many films as you can, watch as many films as you can. I think that's how you grow and learn and get out there and find stories that speak to you. If you're trying to get a job on set, start as an entry-level production assistant, get to know the different departments. If you're trying to get into production design, that position would be the art PA, which is where you really get that experience that you need to move on to other positions. So yeah, I'm also happy to be a mentor and a resource to anyone who's interested in the art department. So feel free to reach out.
Thank you everyone for sharing so much of your experience and your time in the industry and your stories. We'd like to open it up now for Q&A if anyone. Yeah, I know that all the unions are working on some equity and inclusion initiatives to, you know, help get people in and trained and informed and yeah, just ready to work and join our union. And and also share their perspective and their stories and where they've come from in these diverse stories that are happening now. And so, it's great to have just different perspectives in different departments to represent those stories the right way. And so, but that's my perspective.
Can I ask if your respective unions have a training program or orientation classes? At IATSE Local 80, we do have an orientation class, Introduction to the Crafts, like an open house.
I think they used to have that at Local 600, but then they removed it. And I don't know. I think they've been trying to sort of keep it on the smaller side of things. Because I mean, a lot of crews, they like to go from job to job together. And there's like this, it can get a little cliquey. What was that?
It's a little different with us. We have a call board dispatch ability to do that for members as a service. So yeah, you're right. It is by word of mouth for the most part, but I'm looking forward to some change because you want to have more diversity, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I realized when I moved to LA that there's a really big non-union workforce. And I've been a big advocate. I've basically been, promoting the fact that if you're working this consistently, you should be in the union, and like convincing a lot of people, but also I can't tell people they should be in the union while knowing that they don't have the skill set for a union set. And so I've been doing a lot of community level training stuff, like how to be a second AC, how to build a camera, how to be a first AC in full focus and all that stuff. So it's kind of what got the union to tap me to be the chairwoman of the women's committee for that very reason.
Nothing makes one feel more comfortable, especially if you're spending more time on set than you are at home, than to have people who are there to support you. I mean, if we're in our own little world on set, if you're missing a country, then it's not representational of the whole wide world. And so just look at it that way. That's how I explain it to people. It's like I shouldn't be the only one from a Latino country represented here. And unfortunately, sometimes just being a woman, it's hard for that message to get across. But there's no reason why we should apologize for who we are, where we came from. My parents were born in dirt. They had dirt floors. I don't know how else to explain it. They humble beginnings. This is the American dream. They immigrated. I'm an older worker, but they made the endeavors to come. They were fortunate to be documented, and that this is a dream. That's why they have the Dream Act. That's why they have these programs. And it shouldn't be. We shouldn't have to apologize for and feel like we made it. We're grateful, yes, but we're also deserving. We did this. We fought. They fought. How many generations to get to where we are? It's not about oh, there it is. They're waving the Latino flag again. It shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't have to apologize. I can't wait until someday that it's going to be gender neutral, and it's going to be, there'll be representative colors of the rainbow on set, and it's our little milestones, discussions like this that'll get us there. And for advocates like Sabrina and LCLAA and programs of the Trabajadora and Jen and empowering women who are here today, and also the panelists that are here, but also those that are here with us, that's where change happens.
Yeah. And these are all stories that we don't get to share very often. So it's nice to share it with each other and in community, and the honesty of it that you won't really hear too elsewhere. But